What's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Fraud Boxer. I have a special one today. I have a guest who used to be my boss's boss at one of my favorite jobs I ever had. I have Ronan, who used to be my boss's boss at Live Nation Ticketmaster, but he has since started his own company, and we're going to talk about that today. So, Ronan, how are you doing?
Super, Jordan. So good to see you, my friend.
It has been a little while. Now, we obviously caught up before recording this to prep a little bit, and we realized it's been a while, and a lot has changed. But I've known you for, seven years now?
Yeah.
And we all had some big life milestones along the way, and then coming out of that, you have a child now who I remember I was there when we were on baby watch, as Jacqueline said at that time. And then now, like, all the way in kindergarten, right? Or even first grade?
First grade, yeah. I'm starting to learn about the American schooling system, which is almost as complicated as the American medical system.
Yeah.
Good fun, I think is
not
the word.
Not a lot of, I hope you're doing some homeschooling on the side. You know what I mean? So, just schools there where you're at. So,
for sure. Yeah, no, 100%.
So, if you could just run me a little bit through your history, because you've had a pretty cool and interesting history, and you've done companies for a long time. So, like, we're going to talk about like what you've learned and how you're applying that now in the world. But let's hear your history and how you got to where you're at today, if we could.
Yeah, of course. I don't even know if you know all of this, Jordan. So I'll give you.
Don't.
I know. I'll give you the full recap, and I'll do it quickly. I'm going to start when I was 14. Bill Gates used to say, whatever you get obsessed with around the age of 14 to 18 is the thing that's going to consume you for the rest of your life. Yeah, it made me think. I had to think on that a few times. The thing that I was obsessed with sport, and I was obsessed with numbers. And the most fun way to play with both of those at the same time is to get into gambling. Now, you can't gamble till you're 18 in Ireland or anywhere, I think.
Yes.
So I couldn't go into the bookmakers, but I love the idea of being able to predict the future using numbers, and then to predict the future of sporting events using numbers. And so I would send my mother into the bookmakers and bet on events happening in the future, because I thought I could predict the probability of Team A or Team B winning. And I used to make a little pocket money that way. So I just loved it. And
so you actually won doing this.
Yeah, you see, what you might not know in gambling is you think you're up against this machine, like AI, like that's so much smarter than you're not. You're up against another human on the other side of the desk.
That's setting the odds.
And thinks that the likelihood of an event happening is X. And if you think the likelihood is X times 2, well, then you bet on it. And you don't need to know the rules of the sport. You just need to know the likelihood of it happening. So that's what made me really curious. And I went on to do maths and statistics in college, came out of college and met 2 professional gamblers. And they were looking to set up an online gambling company. So I was on the founding team. They hired 5 of us out of college, and we didn't know anything. Like, we knew nothing. We didn't even use the word startup, entrepreneur. I didn't even know what equity was, unfortunately.
No.
But we were the founding team.
That's an important one.
It turns out that it is, yeah. But we had so much fun, and we worked, no joke, 68 hours a week for, I'd say, 4 years. Crazy hours. And we went from pre-product to just north of 1.2 billion a year in turnover in 4 years.
In 4 years?
Yeah, I know. And us not really knowing what we were doing. It was wild. It really was wild. And it was bought by someone who owns lots of big football teams. I won't name their name. And so it was just so much fun, but I didn't know what equity was, so I left with lots of experience, but not much else. But it was just great. It was real learning for me to see how you can take something from virtually nothing and create something from it. So I went from there into another, what I would call a small online Irish gambling company, called Paddy Power. There were 100 of us on the team. I was kind of like online COO, let's say, and in 7.5 years, we went from 100 people to 5,000, and we essentially built the world's biggest online gambling company. So Paddy Power, I'm not sure anyone has ever heard of. If anyone has, drop a comment. I'll give you a thumbs up.
Yeah.
But if you haven't, they now own FanDuel, who you I'm sure have heard of. They own Poker Stars, they own Fox Sports, like they own everything right now. So that was the company that we helped to grow. So I think in that kind of window of time, I saw everything from pre-product up to being the biggest gambling company in the world, and every kind of stage of growth there within.
Wow, that is absolutely fascinating. So how did you get out, leave that to come to Ticketmaster with us? Did you go from that to Ticketmaster, or was there other steps in between?
That was it. So it was in Ireland. We were based. I spent some time in Australia and Antigua, but mostly in Ireland. And I got married, and my wife and I, for anyone who's married, you might relate to this. You prepare your wedding, you have your wedding, you go on your honeymoon, life is a dream. And then 3 weeks later, you're sitting on your couch, it's raining outside, you haven't washed your clothes, you're eating curry out of a takeaway carton, and you're thinking, what am I doing with the rest of my life? And we thought that, and we left our jobs a week later and traveled the world, and we got to LA as part of our travels and just decided to make it home. And
so you just were like passing through, like
literally we made the decision to not allow work dictate the next stage of our life. We wanted to make a life choice, and then we were confident that we could make work around that. Because if we followed work, I probably would have ended up in the Isle of Man or Saskatchewan or Malta, these places which are like gambling hubs, and I just thought I'd rather pick a great place to be, and then we'll figure the rest out afterwards. So that was it, and that's when I met the guys in Ticketmaster. That was the entry into there.
And you were at Ticketmaster for a few years, right?
Yeah, I think like 3.5 years. Yeah. So I think you joined midway through that. That journey.
Yeah, because I was there for three years, 9 months, according to LinkedIn. I left in December 2021. Wow. I made it through COVID.
Look at you. I was just pre-COVID when I left.
Yeah. One thing that you probably never knew is we were all scared of you. Because
look how nice I am.
I know. So that's the thing, is that because I never got it, but when you would send an email out, I would usually get a couple messages saying, stop everything you're doing and do that right now.
Oh no.
And yeah, it was because I think it comes back to what you were doing in your statistics and all the probability, is because the numbers always had to make sense to you. And you were always really good about reading what was on the screen and what that was actually telling us. And you could see if what the conclusions we were drawing wasn't always what were real.
Yeah.
So you were always good with that. I remember you came over to my office, at 1800 one day, and it was a big deal. The Ronan was going to be at 1800, and we had to and you sat in my office for hours.
I remember.
Day, and yeah, I don't remember what the project was that we were working on.
The project was you, my friend.
Yeah. Well, it worked.
Honestly, you were so good. You.
Thank you.
You've paid me a couple of compliments here, but I got to pay you one back. You have the most infectious energy and curiosity, and I mean that very sincerely, of anyone I've ever worked with. Yeah, really, really impressive. And we just wanted to, because we were in a different building to Jordan and his team, which we tried desperately to change. I'm not sure if that was affected by COVID, but we wanted you guys in the room and all decisions.
70-60, yeah, it would have been. It was, I think, looking back on it, it was nice because my team, when I started, the team was very large. It was bigger than it needed to be, but we had a problem that needed to be solved. And our solution at the time was, the only solution was to throw bodies at it while I tried to solve it with technology, which we did. We did eventually solve it with technology, and we were able to reduce the size of the team despite the growth. But I think if we would have been in 70-60 with everybody, it might have got lost in the shuffle a little more. I don't think I would have been able to pay as much attention to the team as needed to be paid at the time. Which is a good way to segue into people. People matter. And you have a company that you started now after Ticketmaster that deals with the challenges of people. Now, we're going to talk probably a little bit about some of navigating internal structures. I'll talk a little bit about my philosophy, but you specifically have tackled something that I always am frustrated with, and something that it's important to me, is the onboarding, the initial joining of a company, because so many people think I think you have a good way to put it. Let's talk about how you how people normally think about onboarding and what you think is wrong with that.
Of course. And I think I'll even start, because everything to this point, if you don't know me, would make you think that I'm a spreadsheet. I'm numbers. I love numbers, but one of the reasons that I enjoy what I do so much is because I get the opportunity to work with people, super smart people, and my aim is to help them to be the best version of themselves. And if that results in them taking my job, that is a success for me, not a failure. And
Interesting.
I really mean that. My management style is one of servant leadership, where if someone works for me, I essentially say to them, you are the boss and I serve you. So you need to tell me what the answer is, and I will remove all of the barriers that are in your way to allow you to achieve that. But I'm not going to do your job for you. You're better than me at your job, so I'm not the one who's going to do that. And that's the model, and I think that produces the best results ultimately.
100%. As
well as helping individuals to actually be the best version of themselves. So I'm empathetic and human underneath all the spreadsheets.
So I think that I've come from different. I've been at companies that have had different styles of leadership. Tribal leadership was one we'll probably talk about in a little bit. But when I was at Ticketmaster was when Jacqueline asked me to read the servant leadership book, and I didn't realize that that's how I was already managing people, because it's how I like to be managed. But one of the things I'm dealing with some stuff right now is, for whatever reason, old school managers always look at they want to be the authoritative manager. And it's a very old school way. Like, they need to be the authority. They need to be the decision maker, and putting their people in front to show them off. Like, for some reason, they think it makes them look incompetent and incapable.
For sure.
And I have my team, we do this monthly presentation that I started at Ticketmaster. You used to come to it.
I remember.
And I do it at the new company, and anybody that wants to come can come. But at the same time, even at Ticketmaster, I started having Jenny do parts of it. I had James do their parts of it instead of me. And it doesn't make me look like I don't know what's happening on my team, but it shows off that they know what they're doing. And the same thing, I'm expanding my team here at this company and looking for people that are experts in things that I don't do at all. But that's what we're going to hire them to do. And they just need to tell me what I need to know. And then, do you have what you need at the end of the day? And that's
100%.
The core of what servant leadership is. Do you have what you need? If you don't, what can I do to give you what you need? And
100%.
I have had massive success by doing that. My teams have been high performing teams since I've switched to that mentality. Less stress, higher engagement, which engagement is everything right now. But I don't want to, this isn't about me. This is about you. So throw the ball back to you.
Yeah, I love all that. So let me jump into onboarding then. So I would say, and even if I take one slight step back with this, the company that we're building and the platform that we're building, ultimately its aim is to align people with their companies, because what we see a lot of today, and I won't even blame COVID for all of this, but there's a sense of disengagement, of misalignment, and the outcome of all of that. And I think it's been expedited by COVID, because we've gone from 20% of people working remotely to 60%. And the result of those things is lower productivity, lower levels of satisfaction, and ultimately the company suffers. And there's a concept called quiet quitting, which is relatively new. It used to be the big resignation, and they've had a couple of different terms where people left the company. Now, quiet quitting is a phenomenon where people don't leave the company, they just switch off. And so they're just not doing as much as they could. They're not as invested as they could be. And what's really interesting about that is it is the result of so many things that have been in place for years, but have kind of been papered over by the fact that they're sitting in an office and they can't switch off because they're visible in front of you, and you will see if they walk out the door or if they're on their phone. But now the 60% of the world is working remotely. That's no longer the case. And so I think we're living in kind of a modern and new world that the old practices don't necessarily serve. And I think what we collectively have been doing for a long time is being a little bit lazy in terms of some things that I feel are incredibly important. So come to onboarding. for me, this is a prime example where, and hopefully everyone can kind of look at themselves for a moment and think about their own onboarding journey or the onboarding journey they're giving to those in their team. Some are going to do fantastic jobs, but for the most part, it is an exercise in ensuring that the person has a chair, a swipe card, their email access works, they've got the contract signed, it's a functional, transactional set of activities to make sure that they can actually work. Now, that is absolutely necessary, but I do not think that is an onboarding program.
That's just facilities,
It's
that was
facilities.
like Eddie and his team was always great at Ticketmaster, making sure that I had it. They did I have my TV? Did I want an Apple TV? Did I need cable? Yes,
There
I did.
you
On
go.
all of those things. But yeah, that's not like my thing is, and I'm sure you're going to get there. Like for this company this is the first company I onboarded fully remote. So I didn't know anybody.
Wow.
I couldn't walk over and tap somebody on the shoulder.
Yeah.
So like I had to find people to go like, who do I talk to about a customer service problem? Who do I talk to about IT? So yes,
100%. No, you're absolutely on the money. And so what we believe is that onboarding is the best opportunity for an organization to have someone feel like they belong, make them feel like they have a purpose, make them understand how to execute against that purpose, have them align themselves with the company's goals and mission and strategy. And if you can do all of those things, you are going to have someone who is absolutely going to do their best work for you and for your company. And that's what we believe in. And we think that onboarding is just one of a number of what we call kind of transition moments when you're within a company. So going from being not an employee to being an employee, it's a transition moment. You're highly vulnerable. You have a lot to learn in a short window of time. You want to be successful. You need some help there. And an old mentor of mine used to say that if you're there for people in those moments, those 1% of moments, they will be with you forever. And so we really feel that if you can give someone a good onboarding, help them feel grounded, purposeful, engaged, and like they belong, you have them, as an employee forever.
I've never heard that particular mantra before, because probably came from your mentor, but that resonates with me because I look back, like as you're saying these words, I'm thinking back through my time, like at this at iHerb, Eric Carr is our director of customer service, and he is known as like, you have to make sure he's happy all the time, but I didn't know that, and he was the first person like he was the first person that's like, hey, welcome. He's like, let me help you make your world smaller, was what he said. Those were the exact words that he said to me. And he basically said, you need to talk to this person, you need to talk to this person, you need to talk to this person. And like, those were the people that like I needed. And to this day, Eric's still my guy.
Yeah.
Like he actually ends up living like a couple miles from me, and like we go get beers like regularly. Like I went to his daughter's birthday party. Like he has become, to your point, like
a trusted
my guy, my guy.
Yeah, you built that trust with him in that moment, and it will never be broken. But
absolutely.
But there's other transition moments as well. So if that's onboarding, think about, maybe you're way further in your career than this, but think about the first time you ever managed someone. Like, how intimidating is that? Like, that's so hard to do. And maybe first time you manage someone who's older than you, or someone who, I said, manage people who earned more than me. Like, these are all real legitimate challenges, or managing multiple groups of people, or managing people in different geographies. Like, they're moments, just like becoming a leader in an organization is another moment. But there's all these moments, these transition moments where you're like, oof, okay, I got to step up here. This is a transition for me. I'm a little bit vulnerable. And at those moments, if you as an organization can support that individual, again, you build this level of trust and a sense of belonging that is just unbreakable. And they're not huge. You can get lots wrong outside of those moments and still have a very trusted individual who's really going to feel like they belong. So that's kind of our entry point into this. Is like, I think we can do better with all the people in our companies and actually drive a higher level of engagement and alignment, which ultimately is going to benefit the company in multiple different ways.
So engagement. Let's specifically talk about that, because this is all great. Like, this is wonderful. This is resonating with me, especially like the multiple geographies. When I took over global at Ticketmaster, that's the first time I ever managed somebody outside of the US. But I was super honest with that individual and his team that like, hey, we're in uncharted waters for me here. You tell me what you need. Servant leadership again. And in that way, I was transparent. I was honest. I was vulnerable. Which like that's the thing is like vulnerability is as a manager, if you're vulnerable to your team, it's not weakness anymore. Sorry, folks. Like if you're looking at this, you don't have to be the hard ass. You can be vulnerable, and your team's going to want to help you, and you're going to be better. But let's specifically talk about engagement because that's the new buzzword right now. It is, and I just coincidentally just last week. So CNBC, I've talked about it a few times on this show, puts out these little like 9-10 minute like things on YouTube. Super informative, direct to the point, and they just put out an engagement thing that was and how much it cost. Now, we just went through a big engagement exercise at our company. We use Gallup to measure engagement. Happy to say I'm always like number 2 in my boss. My boss is number 1, and it's because he's getting the Jordan's team a lift on there because I have the biggest team in the group. But I was shocked at some of the numbers, and I have the numbers just so people like because numbers always do well on these things. But lost productivity due to engagement is 8.8 trillion annually, and these are from that CNBC. I don't remember the source.
I think Gallup were actually the source. They released something earlier this year, a full paper on this.
8.8 trillion for U.S. companies alone, 450 to 550 billion just for U.S. companies, and that only. You said the number earlier, only 31% of employees are engaged at work. Because you said the 60%, you said the inverse of it earlier, which is nuts. And it leads to the quiet quitting. And then it's the managers are the ones that are really disengaged right now. And they're driving further. See, 70% of a team's engagement is directly tied to their manager. So how you can bring your whole team down by just being a sucky manager, folks. So like those were crazy dollars and figures on that. Like that, I don't think, like, companies are always trying to squeak out every inch of productivity they think. But you know what? Just like ask them how people are doing. Like is a simple question can drive that. So what are your thoughts on some of that in there?
I'm so glad you quoted all those numbers because it saves me having to shoehorn them in somewhere. But you're on the money, absolutely. And I think engagement is the puzzle at the moment. I think a little differently because I think you can engage people in the short term with things like money, pizza parties, beers on Thursdays, and you'll get little lifts. And I mean, we're both fans of those things, but you'll get little lifts. But I feel like what you need to do is align people so that even if they don't get a beer on a Thursday, they don't have shitty performance on a Friday. They're more sustainably kind of engaged and sense of belonging and purpose and all that. So for me, it absolutely is an important thing. But I feel like there's a deeper kind of more sustainable model that we need to be engaging. And it's so, I want to say it's so easy. Like it's silly how easy it is. But it just takes a little bit of consideration and it takes a little bit of investment to create this. You can create this in a programmatic way. And part of what we do is we allow you to start this process in an hour. Like we can help you create your first program, which is going to help to align your people in 60 minutes. So like it's not a huge lift to do this, but it's just you just got to decide to do it. And so it's things like sharing, it's like transparency, and everything you mentioned earlier. What I was hearing was humility, vulnerability, transparency, communication. Like they're all the things. They can feel very hard. Like if I said to you, £1 million and I'll get your engagement up by point X with pizza, you go, okay, I know what that is, I know how much it costs and I want that, I'll pay it. If you said, let's do some work on communication, transparency, vulnerability, you're like,
it's not tangible. I don't
know. What's the cost? That's the value, so hard, but it really is. We try and turn that into something very tangible and practical, and then ultimately give you back numbers, which I love. Come back to numbers.
So you guys can quantify that.
We can quantify that. We can make provable. We can prove to you the value of doing those things.
That is pretty interesting though, because like to your point, like, yeah, if you spend X amount of dollars, you can get X amount of lift. That's easy. And I feel like it's like a path of least resistance thing. But, outside of just the engagement buzzword, we've been talking for the last 10 years, especially Silicon Valley companies, about culture and like building a culture. And it all comes into that is like, for me, I've talked about it on recent episodes too. is when I hire new people, I hire more for cultural fit than knowledge, because knowledge can be it's
Totally
easier
agree.
to do knowledge than it is to find a cultural fit. And being people that are culturally bought in leads to higher engagement, as long as I'm helping maintain that culture at the end of the day. But at the same time, is like, how do you measure culture? Like, how do you measure the benefits of that? Because like, happy employees, ha ha ha, we're all getting along, we like the same types of jokes and everything. Is that culture? Or is we're all figured a way to work towards a collective goal? Is that culture? Or the company, to me, cultural in a company is the company is providing me with adequate resources and letting me drive my team the way that I need to drive my team to get the results. And instead of just having me manage the results, they manage to a larger goal, I guess, at the end of the day. Low turnover, because onboarding people is expensive at the end of the day. Sure, training people up, like all those things. If I could keep delivering results with a high engagement and scalable too. Like my company is growing at a pretty good rate. We're very public about that. And I try to not hire because I want it to be scalable. I did hire, but that was mostly because we just wanted weekend coverage and we didn't have it before. But I mean, I said a lot of words without saying a point. Maybe you probably have a better way of framing it, because that's kind of what you do.
No. That's super. I think I think that all makes total sense. I think the way that we think about how to translate some of this kind of very hard to kind of put your fingers on, like culture and alignment and all that, is maybe explain how we do it, and then I'll translate that back into kind of some of the numbers.
Please.
But what we do essentially is we allow you to create kind of a learning portfolio, we call it, a series of programs or learning experiences that you create internally from your own company knowledge, using your own people in the company, and then you serve that out to other individuals within the company. And as they're learning that, you can pair them up with buddies. You mentioned, your old buddy who's now your friend.
I remember the buddy system. We had that.
I had a guy called Dan Armstrong. Hello, Dan, if you ever hear this. And just like you were saying, he's just super. And I'm still friends with Dan, and he was super because you can learn about the company and you can learn about the org chart and you can learn about the processes. But then when you sit down with someone, and Dan didn't do this, but when you sit down with someone, they can say, hey, that's the guy you want to impress. This guy, you want to avoid him at all costs. This EA, she runs the world. Don't ever, and that's the context that you kind of wrap around some of the kind of harder learning. So what we do at Dosen is we allow you to pick the learning models you want on the topics that you want, use your own company information. We institutionalize all your knowledge. So AI is now given us the ability to consume everything about you. So when you create these programs and experiences, they're for you, they're not generic. And you pick these learning experiences and styles, and they can be that programmatic onboarding program with a buddy. They can be management at various levels. It could be mentorship, but it could also just be random things at moments in time. You have a new client and you're a small consulting firm. You got to educate yourself on this industry. Let's knock up a program in an hour and let's serve it out to all our consultants. And because it's the
same... That's a great idea.
Wasn't it so simple? Like this isn't rocket science. And because it's the same content, but you've controlled it, it's come from your own company knowledge base and you serve it out. You now have consistency, you have scale, you have the ability to see who's consuming it because it's all digital. So you can now see who's actually doing what. You can see your best performers. You can see who's not completing it.
So you could track engagement just based on like that alone, like who's in the system.
There you go. So you can track learning engagement, which will correlate to kind of work engagement, let's call it. But what you can also do is you can calculate an ROI on the back of the learning consumption, because you will reduce the amount of time it takes you to create and deliver learning. You will improve the readiness of people to be fully productive because you're serving them more learning in a more consistent and provable fashion. I heard this one yesterday, really interesting, from a company we're talking to. I hadn't thought about it. They said, we don't hire junior people because we can't afford to. We can't afford to train them. So what we do is we spend more money hiring people, hoping that they can already do all the skills that we otherwise, and we should probably be training them. And he said, and we kind of throw them in at the deep end. And so that's a cost. Like they're literally spending double what they could be on people or hiring.
And then they probably have more attrition that way too, because people are going to leave when they get frustrated when they got thrown to the wolves.
Exactly. Or like the people who survived having been thrown to the wolves did this in their own way. When they leave the company, they're like, oh no, because
brain drain.
You were the guy who was going to teach the next generation. And the way they onboard people, they have 15 people meet that individual one-to-one, talk to them, educate them, every single new employee. And every one of those conversations is slightly different.
That seems like a lot of time.
Different people, inconsistent, no one knows who's doing what. Like, that's just a huge drain. So that's kind of where we come in, and it sounds so simple, but that content, this is where you get back to a little bit of humility. We suggest the CEO of every company that we work with records a video of themselves answering questions, tells their own story, why they got to where they got to. You then interview kind of senior leaders in the company. You interview the best people in the company. You interview the person who went on a hero journey, who started in the mailroom and is now the C-level something. Like, let's get all those stories out. Let's bubble them to the top and let's serve them to people. That's how you engage people. Like, that's how you feel like you belong in a company. If you see yourself in some of the senior leaders, if you relate to the stories that they're telling, if you really understand the history of the company and where it's going, that's how you figure some of these things out.
That would be cool, because that would make you feel really like bought in, like you're like actually like a part of it,
Totally.
I love that hero's journey one, the one that like the person that started in the mailroom. That's such a because that's an inspiring story, you know. And people do at the end of the day like to be inspired. Like,
100%.
That's what you want. Super interesting.
Yeah, so that's what we do, and it all, like, there's no rocket science here. We haven't, we're not, it's not all patented crazy AI.
You gotta patent that shit.
I gotta bet. But it's just...
Don't forget about equity.
Yeah. I knew there was something. Yeah. So that's...
CEO with no equity.
And that's it. So it's not rocket science, and you'll get as much out of it as you put in. And what we're really trying to do is, the companies who've done this really well in the past have had to invest a huge amount of their time and resources and money to do it. And I've learned this the hard way in Paddy Power. I can tell you that story in a minute. But they've had to invest a lot into this to get out those results. And what we're really trying to do is, as I said, you can create your first version of this in 60 minutes. You can create as many programs as you want in Dosen. You can see the results really quickly. You can see what programs are working and not, what people are consuming and not. They're going to feed back live as they're completing programs. You don't need to wait for 3 months and survey and then maybe, do I remember how that was? You get it all real time. So it's all just a very simple system designed to drive that level of alignment in the company.
I feel like, because we have like the classic, learnings that are like videos from 1983,
of course,
of people walking around, and like it's ours is in another HR software, and at the end you have to rate it, and like all of ours are like 1 star. Everybody's just rating it 1 star because they are pretty bad. Like they're pretty bad, but they're like they're required, those sorts of things. So I'm happy that someone's trying to. That is such an opportunity to make life better, is having better engaging learnings.
Yeah, isn't it mad? Because I think the game today is, how can I do my learning in as little time as possible?
Yep.
Learn as little as I possibly can and pass the test at the end. Isn't that the game?
2x it. If I can find out if I can click it to the end,
there you go.
Like all the little hacks.
Can I make a coffee and pass the test by going A, B, and the multi-choice? Like, that's the game. And you're like, that can't be where we're at.
I learned nothing.
Yeah.
I learned nothing except for memorizing what the answers to the test were when I failed it the first time, and it tells me what the right one is. So I take it again. So is this something that, like, do we have to call you, or can I just go to like your website and just start on my own on there?
So you will shortly be able to go and start on your own. We're still early stage, and to be honest, for the first bunch of customers, we want to be very personally involved. So if you
that makes sense.
Yeah, because it's important, and some of this, as simple as it sounds, is still new. And I think some of the nervousness is less about technology, and some of it is about, look, I'm going to put myself out there. I'm going to be vulnerable.
It does sound like that vulnerability thing we were talking about. It does sound like that.
So we want to be there with you. We hold your hand. We give you a lot of time and support, and we make sure that the first program is an outright success. We kind of joke internally. We want the people who work on the program in their companies to get promoted within 12 months. And if they haven't, we've done something wrong, because they should get such success out of this.
I'm putting this in tomorrow.
Like, isn't it, you know, that's the highest sign of success for us if the people running the program aren't getting recognition for it. So go to the website, multiple ways to kind of connect with me on Ronan at Dosen.io, but we'll take really good care of you. So today we want to know about you. We talk to you. We actually reject a lot of companies, truthfully, when we chat to them, because we don't think they're ready, or we think that there's something else that's causing the problem that they're facing.
They didn't have the right cultural fit.
And it's not even it's not a commentary on them. It's more just, if they have a problem they're trying to solve, and I don't think that we can get them all the way there, we're not going to pretend that we can. So that's what we do today. And in time, we're quite close to having a model where you can just sign up on the website, start to play with the product, and very quickly learn that yourself.
That's super interesting. I will put a QR code up, everybody. If you were watching this while he was saying that, a QR code slid up that goes to their website. I will also put a link to the website for people that are not watching. And in the description of this, I will also put his email in there. YouTube gets kind of funky about it, but I will space it out and make it work on there. I'll also link his LinkedIn and all the things. So anybody that it has curiosities, I will make sure that you have the ability to fulfill and answer those curiosities. So as we begin to wrap up here, I always ask people what they think the top 3 trends that are happening in their world. Like, it could be right now, it could be a year from now. I have asked you that. You have answered these in the thing. So could you run those down in closing for my audience, please?
Absolutely. I'm going to throw in one new one as well. I think number one, quiet quitting. We're in the midst of this, and it's not getting any better. So I think that's
It's not getting better.
No, it's really not. So I think we're in the midst of that. And it's funny how a lot of companies are going to solve this by forcing people to go back in the office, because they're just not sure.
That's what they think. Yeah. And then now people just go to lunch longer. That's all they're doing now.
That's a yesterday solution to a today problem. So I'd say quiet quitting is number one. Number two, I think, is a real desire by people to feel like they belong in the company that they're in. I think for the first time that I've seen in my career, it used to be in our parents' generation, job for life. Then our generation, it's like job for 5 or 6 years at a time on average, but loyalty and commitment is still there. I think we're in a world today where people can afford to be much more fleeting. And when you work from home, location's no longer a challenge. So I think, and people realize because of that, they have lots of options. So they're thinking about what they really want out of work. So I would say there's a real demand for people to feel like they belong, they have a purpose, they're aligned with their company before they're really going to commit themselves to it. So I think that's kind of number two. And then I think number three, there's this thing called AI. If you've heard
about it. I think I don't think it's going to be anything, but
probably not. Probably a fad. But I think it's driving fear more than anything right now. I think lots of people are just like worried, like, am I using it enough? Am I using it right? Am I and particularly in organizations, because it's one thing, am I doing it right myself? Am I, you can figure that out.
Am I using it enough is what I'm doing right now, because I use it very strategically, like especially for like the show, like a lot of the stuff, numbers and things in, or like just, I make it listen to the show and write me a summary, those sorts of things. But it's like, I see what we have this guy, Andre, that is on Eric, the customer service guy's team, that uses it in like just the craziest, most clever ways. And it just blows my mind. But I think where I'm really going to get a lot of use out of it is the agentic stuff, like using AI agents to like book me doctor's appointments and flights.
Totally.
Like that. Yeah. That's where I'm excited the most about it. So.
Yeah. So I think that's the trend. And then that's the concern. And then if you bubble that up to people at a senior level in companies, it's like, how do I get my company using this? So I think that's another trend. And all I would say is, this is where we kind of come in. We will leverage AI on your behalf to institutionalize your knowledge. We will let it create programs for you. And I don't want to speak too soon, but we're going to move into a world where it's going to become employee-led learning. And we're going to leverage generative AI on the front end to allow people to actually create their own programs.
It would be cool if I could ask an AI, like, especially my own company, how do I open a Jira ticket? How do I figure out my health benefits? What do I need to know about, like, I'm having a baby? What comes next?
Who do I talk to about this particular project? 100%. What's my career path? How do I, when AI knows all that information, and as your institutional knowledge, it can create for you programs to educate you. It can answer questions, and it can
because
create your
there might be somebody at your company that does that you didn't even know existed.
100%. So. Yeah. So there you go.
Thank you so much for lending me your time. Dosen.io, everybody. Like, again, there's going to be another QR code that's going to be right here, right now. So scan that, click the link to go see what they're all about. Maybe get started, maybe give them a call. Thank you again, like, so much. It's been a wild ride. Thank you for coming on my show. I really appreciate it.
Not at all, Jordan. Thank you so much. It's so nice to see you again. And well done. This is, you've made one hell of a success of this. I'm really, really honored to be on the show.
I really, really thank you for your kind words. It's keeping me extra humble, I promise.
I don't doubt that, my friend.
All right, everybody. Well, we'll see you all in a couple of weeks. Thanks.